Lieutenant Hannah Park stared at her ship's main screen. 3 red dots appeared out of nowhere. Enemy ships. Big ones. Her small scout vessel was alone in the dark space between star systems. Where did they come from? Asked Tay, her communications officer. His hands moved fast over his control panel. I didn't see them on any scans. Hannah's heart beat faster, but she kept her voice calm. They were hiding behind that asteroid field. Smart move. She pressed the alarm button. Red lights flashed everywhere on the ship. The enemy ships were huge compared to her vessel. They looked like giant insects with long, sharp edges. Their dark red metal hulls reflected the distant starlight. Hannah had seen pictures of these ships before, but never this close. They belonged to the Vortak Empire. Can we run? Asked Q from the engine room over the intercom. His voice sounded worried. Hannah checked her navigation screen. The enemy ships had surrounded them in a perfect triangle. No escape route. These aliens were not stupid. They had planned this attack very carefully. Running is not an option, she said. All hands to battle stations. The first enemy attack came fast. Bright green energy beams hit their shields. The whole ship shook like a toy in a child's hands. Hannah grabbed her chair to stay steady. Shields down to 60%, Tay reported. They hit us 3 times already? Hannah looked at her small crew. Only 3 people on this scout ship. Tay at communications, Q running the engines, and herself at the captain's chair. They were good people. Good friends. But 3 humans against 3 alien warships was not a fair fight. Return fire, she ordered. Their small weapons shot back at the enemy. The energy beams hit the closest alien ship but did no real damage. It was like throwing rocks at a tank. The second enemy attack was worse. The alien ships fired together this time. The impact threw everyone to the floor. Lights went out and came back on. Smoke filled the air. Hull breach on level 2, Q called out. We are losing air fast. Emergency seal activated, Tay said, working at his controls. But we cannot take many more hits like that. Hannah knew they were going to die. Her small ship had no chance against the alien warships. But she had to try something. Her job was to protect human space from threats like this. Send a message to Earth Fleet, she told Tay. Tell them about the Vortak ships here. Their position, their numbers, everything. Already trying, Tay said. But they are blocking our signals somehow. The alien ships moved closer. Hannah could see more details now through her main screen. The hulls had strange patterns on them. Like artwork but scary. She could also see weapon ports opening all over their surface. Dozens of them. They are not trying to destroy us quickly, she realized. They want something. What do you mean? Asked Tay. Before Hannah could answer, something new appeared on her screen. A message in broken human language appeared in green letters. Human ship. You will surrender. We want to talk to you. Do not try to run. Do not try to fight. You will come with us alive. Hannah stared at the message. The Vortak Empire had been expanding into human space for months. They destroyed every human ship they found. They killed everyone. They never wanted prisoners before. Why do they want us alive? They asked. I do not know, Hannah said. But I do not think we have a choice. The alien ships fired again. But this time the weapons were different. Instead of trying to destroy them, the energy beams seemed to shut down their systems. The engine stopped working. The lights went out. Even the air recycling system turned off. They are disabling us, Q said over the intercom. Not destroying us. In the darkness, Hannah heard new sounds. Metal touching metal. The aliens were connecting something to their ship's hull. They are boarding us, she whispered. Emergency lights came on, giving everything a red glow. Hannah pulled out her sidearm. They did the same. They heard footsteps in the corridor outside the bridge. Heavy footsteps. Not human. The bridge door opened with a loud hiss. 3 tall shapes came in. They had to bend down to fit through the human-sized doorway. In the red light, Hannah saw them clearly for the first time. The Vortaks were bigger than humans. Much bigger. They had hard shells like insects but stood on 2 legs like people. Their faces had many eyes that glowed in the darkness. 4 arms each, all ending in sharp claws. They wore some kind of armor that made them look even more dangerous. One of them made clicking sounds. The others responded the same way. They were talking to each other. The first alien pointed at Tay and made a gesture. One of the others fired some kind of weapon. Tay fell to the floor, not moving. Hannah screamed and raised her gun, but the same weapon hit her. The last thing she saw was the alien's many eyes looking at her with what seemed like curiosity. Then everything went black. When Hannah woke up, she was alone in a small white room. The walls, floor, and ceiling were all the same bright color. There was no furniture, no windows, just her, sitting on the hard floor, wearing the same uniform she had on during the battle. She tried to remember what happened to Tay and Q, but her head hurt when she thought about it. She was alive. The aliens had kept their word about that. But where was she? And what did they want with her? Through a clear wall she had not noticed before, she saw movement. An alien face appeared, looking at her with those strange glowing eyes. Chief Interrogator Vel walked slowly around the white room where the human sat. He had been doing this job for 20 years. He had broken prisoners from 15 different alien species. Warriors, spies, scientists, commanders, they all gave up their secrets in the end. This human looked small and weak. She sat in the middle of the room with her legs crossed and her eyes closed. Her breathing was slow and steady. She had not moved for 2 hours. "Look at this creature more," Vel said to his assistant. "So tiny. No claws. No armor. No sharp teeth. How did this species fight our ships?" Moore clicked his mandibles together. He was younger than Vel but still experienced. "The reports say humans use tools and weapons. But without them they are nothing." Vel nodded. He had read the military files about humans. They were a new species in this part of space. Their ships were fast but not very strong. Their weapons were basic. They had only been traveling between stars for a few hundred years. "We have tortured Korathan battle masters who could crush rocks with their bare hands," Vel said. "We broke the Zerial mind readers who could see our thoughts. This little thing should be easy." The prison facility on Kethvar Moon was the best in the Vorthak Empire. The interrogation chambers had every tool Vel needed. Pain machines that could target specific nerves. Drugs that made prisoners see their worst fears. Sound weapons that could drive anyone insane. "Bring her to Chamber 7, Vel ordered. 2 guards entered the white room. The human opened her eyes and looked at them. She did not try to fight or run. She just stood up slowly and walked with them. Her face showed no fear at all. This surprised Vel. Most prisoners screamed or begged by now. The Korathan warriors had roared with anger. The Zerial mind readers had tried to attack the guards. But this human just looked around with calm, curious eyes. Chamber 7 was Vel's favorite room. The walls were black metal with tools hanging everywhere. Bright lights could blind prisoners. Speakers could make sounds so loud they caused pain. In the center was a metal chair with straps for arms and legs. "Sit," Vel commanded in human language. The human sat down without being forced. She let the guard strap her arms and legs to the chair. She still showed no fear. This was very strange. Vel had learned some human language from their computer files. He could speak basic words and sentences. "I am Chief Interrogator Vel. You will tell me everything about your military forces." The human looked at him but said nothing. "I know about your Earth ships," Vel continued. "How many are in this sector? Where are your bases? What weapons do you have?" Still no answer. The human just studied his face like she was trying to learn something. Vel was not worried yet. Many prisoners stayed quiet at first. That was normal. He pressed a button on his control panel. A low humming sound filled the room. The sound was designed to cause anxiety and fear. The human's heart rate monitor showed on Vel's screen. Most prisoners' hearts would beat faster when they heard this sound. But the human's heart rate was actually going down. How was that possible? "Moore checked the monitors," Vel said. "They are working correctly," Moore replied. "But look at her brain patterns. I have never seen readings like these." The screens showed the human's brain activity. Instead of fear patterns, her mind was showing something that looked almost like sleep. But she was awake and alert. Her eyes tracked everything in the room. "Maybe humans are different," Moore suggested. "Should we try the pain inducers?" Vel nodded. He pressed another button. Electrical current ran through the metal chair. Not enough to cause real harm but enough to hurt badly. Every prisoner screamed at this point. The human's body tensed for a moment. Her jaw tightened. But she made no sound. She breathed a little faster, then her breathing returned to normal. "Increase power," Vel ordered. The electrical current got stronger. Now most prisoners would be begging to stop. The human closed her eyes and seemed to concentrate on something inside her mind. Her face remained calm. Vel increased the power again. And again. The human's body shook from the electricity, but she still made no sound. Her monitors showed pain responses in her brain, so she was definitely feeling everything. But somehow she was controlling her reactions. "This is impossible," Moore whispered. "No species can ignore this much pain." Vel turned off the electrical current. The human opened her eyes and looked at him again. There was something in her gaze that made him uncomfortable. She was not looking at him like a prisoner should look at her captor. She was looking at him like she was studying him. We will try different methods tomorrow, Vel decided. Perhaps chemicals will work better. But as they prepared to return the human to her cell, something happened that had never happened before in Vel's career. The human spoke. Not in human language but in perfect Vorthak. Your carapace shows stress patterns, she said clearly. Your breathing is irregular. You expected this to be easy. Vel stepped backward in shock. How could she know their language? They had only captured her yesterday. And how could she see stress patterns that even other Vorthaks sometimes missed? How do you know our words? Vel demanded. The human smiled slightly. I listen. I learn. I watch. As the guards took her back to her cell, Vel felt something he had not experienced in 20 years of interrogation work. Doubt. This human was not like any prisoner he had ever faced. For the first time, Chief Interrogator Vel wondered if he could break her at all. Day 4 began like the others. Hannah sat in her white cell, breathing slowly and steadily. She had learned to count time by watching the guards change shifts outside her transparent wall. The Vorthaks worked in cycles of 8 hours. They were very organized, very predictable. She had also learned their names by listening to their conversations. The tall guard with the scar on his left arm was called Tech. The shorter one who always carried extra weapons was Bricks. They thought she could not understand them when they talked. They were wrong. The chief wants to see the human again, Tech told Bricks in their clicking language. 4th day in a row, Bricks replied. I heard he used the mind scramblers yesterday. Still nothing. Hannah pretended not to understand. She had discovered that the Vorthaks revealed important information when they thought she was just a dumb animal. Yesterday she had learned about their supply problems. 3 days ago she had heard about tension between different groups in their military. The guards came to get her. As always, she walked calmly between them to Chamber 7. As always, she sat in the metal chair without fighting. But now she knew things about this place that Vel did not realize. She knew that Moore was afraid of his supervisor finding out about his mistakes. She knew that Vel had a mate and 3 offspring waiting for him at home. She knew that the facility was short on medical supplies because of attacks by human ships in other sectors. Good morning, human, Vel said in his broken human language. Today we try new methods. Hannah looked at him with the same calm expression she always used. But inside she was cataloging everything. His body language showed frustration and anger. His movements were less controlled than on the first day. The stress was getting to him. You will tell me about your fleet positions, Vel continued. Or today will be very painful. He activated a new machine. This one sent waves of sound that were designed to cause panic. The noise was terrible, like metal scraping against metal amplified 1,000 times. Most prisoners lost their minds within minutes of hearing this. Hannah had been prepared for this. During her military training, she had learned techniques from Earth's ancient meditation practices. She let the sound wash over her without fighting it. In her mind, she imagined herself sitting by a quiet river on Earth. The sound became just water flowing over rocks. She also used this time to study Vel's reactions. He was watching her monitors carefully, waiting for signs of breakdown. When the readings stayed normal, his mandibles clicked together rapidly, a sign of anxiety she had observed before. After 30 minutes, Vel turned off the sound machine. Impossible, he muttered in Vorthak. No one can resist the fear frequency. Maybe humans are broken, Moore suggested. Maybe their minds work differently. Hannah almost smiled at this comment. Humans were not broken. They had simply learned to survive on a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, predators, diseases, wars. Her species had endured everything Earth could throw at them. Next, Vel tried the chemical approach. He injected her with drugs that were supposed to make her hallucinate her worst fears. For most species, this method worked within hours. But Hannah had trained for chemical interrogation too. She controlled her breathing and heart rate, just like her instructors had taught her. The drugs made her see strange shapes and colors, but she recognized them as false visions. More importantly, while the drugs affected her mind, she heard Vel and Moore talking freely about things they should never discuss in front of a prisoner. The High Command wants results, Vel said. If we cannot break this human, they will send someone else. What about our report on human capabilities? Moore asked. We have nothing to report. This creature tells us nothing. We know nothing about human weaknesses or strengths. Maybe that is the answer, Moore said quietly. Maybe this endurance is their strength. Hannah filed this conversation away in her memory. The Vorthaks were under pressure from their leaders. They needed information about humans to continue their invasion plans. And they were getting desperate. On day 5, Vel tried combining multiple torture methods. Pain and sound and drugs together. Hannah endured it all by focusing on her mission. Every minute she stayed silent was another minute for human forces to prepare defenses. Every piece of information she gathered was valuable intelligence. During a break between sessions, she heard Vel talking to someone on his communication device. "No, Commander, we have learned nothing useful," he was saying. "The human shows no normal responses to our methods. We need more time." The voice on the other end sounded angry. Hannah could not make out the words, but Vel's body language showed fear. "Yes, Commander. I understand the timeline. But this species may require different approaches." After the call ended, Vel looked at Hannah with something that might have been respect. "What are you?" he asked in Vorthak. Hannah met his eyes and spoke clearly in his language. "I am someone who listens while you talk. I am someone who learns while you try to teach me pain. I am someone who remembers everything." Vel's compound eyes widened. He realized that she had been understanding their conversations for days. All their careless talk about military secrets, supply problems, and command structure had been heard and recorded in her memory. For the first time, the interrogator looked truly afraid of his prisoner. Day 6 changed everything. Hannah sat in the metal chair as usual, but this time she spoke before Vel could start his questions. "Your mate Kira is worried about you," she said in perfect Vorthak. "You have been working late every night this week. She thinks you are avoiding the family meal times because you are ashamed." Vel froze. His forearms stopped moving completely. No prisoner had ever mentioned his family before. No prisoner should even know he had a family. "How do you know that name?" Vel whispered. "You talk in your sleep," Hannah said calmly. "Yesterday during the drug session, you mumbled about missing your offspring's learning ceremony. You feel guilty because work is more important to you than family time." This was not entirely true. Hannah had learned about Vel's family by listening to him talk with other guards. But she said it in a way that made him think she could read his mind. Moore stepped backwards toward the door. "Chief, maybe we should stop for today." "No," Vel said, but his voice shook. "She is trying to trick us with lucky guesses." Hannah turned her attention to Moore. "You are not lucky at all, are you, Moore? Your clutch mother never believed you would succeed as an interrogator. She wanted you to be a soldier like your brother Vex. Every night you wonder if she was right about you being weak." Moore made a choking sound. His carapace changed color slightly, a sign of extreme distress in his species. "How can she know these things?" "Because I watch and I listen," Hannah said. "You think I am the prisoner here, but I have been studying you for 6 days. I know more about you than you think." Vel activated the pain machine, but his movements were clumsy. The electrical current hit Hannah, and she absorbed it as she had learned to do. But now she continued talking through the pain. "The pain makes you uncomfortable, Vel," she said, her voice steady despite the electricity coursing through her body. "You can dish it out, but you cannot watch others endure what you could never handle yourself. That is why you always look away when the current is strongest." Vel did look away. He always did. He had never realized that anyone noticed this habit. "Stop talking," he ordered, but there was no authority in his voice anymore. "Tech and Bricks think you are losing your skills," Hannah continued. "They whisper about it during shift changes. They say the human has broken the great chief interrogator Vel. They say maybe you are too old for this work now." This was partially true. Hannah had heard the guards talking, but she emphasized the parts that would hurt Vel the most. She could see the psychological impact in his body language. "You are lying," Vel said, but he increased the power of the pain machine. He was getting angry, which meant he was losing control. "Am I?" Hannah asked. "Then why did your supervisor Commander Zek call you yesterday? Why did he ask if you needed to be replaced on this assignment? Why did he mention sending Interrogator next to take over?" Vel's mandibles clicked rapidly. That conversation had been private in his office with the door closed. How could she know about it? The truth was that Hannah had very good hearing. The walls in this facility were not as soundproof as the Vorthaks thought. She had heard Vel's side of many conversations over the past few days. "You want to know what I think?" Hannah asked. "No," Moore said quickly. "Chief, let us end this session." But Vel was trapped now. He had to know what she would say. "Tell me." "I think you are all afraid," Hannah said. "Not of me personally. You are afraid of what I represent. For 20 years, you have broken prisoners by making them feel helpless and alone. But I am not helpless and I am not alone." She looked directly into Vel's compound eyes. "Every moment I spend here, every torture session I endure, every secret I learn about your people, It all goes back to my commanders when I am released. And I will be released. You will never leave this place, Vel said, but his voice was weak. Yes, I will, Hannah said with complete confidence. Because you cannot break something that was already forged in fire. My species survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. We survived diseases that killed millions. We survived wars that destroyed entire continents. What you are doing to me here is nothing compared to what my planet did to my ancestors. Moore was backing toward the door. Chief, I request permission to leave. Granted, Vel said without taking his eyes off Hannah. As Moore fled, Hannah continued her psychological assault. You know what the worst part is, Vel? You are actually helping me. Every day you keep me here, I learn more about your military structure, your supply problems, your fears, your weaknesses. When I return to my people, I will know exactly how to defeat you. You know nothing about our military, Vel protested. I know that you are short on medical supplies because of human attacks in the Kepler sector, Hannah said. I know that there is conflict between your ground forces and your space fleet commanders. I know that your breeding season is approaching, which means half your military will be distracted by mating rituals. Vel stepped away from the control panel. Each fact she stated was accurate. Information he had heard in supposedly private conversations over the past week. Most importantly, Hannah said, I know that you are more afraid of me than I am of you. For the first time in 20 years of interrogation work, Chief Interrogator Vel ran from his own torture chamber. Day 7 began differently. No guards came to get Hannah from her cell. She sat in her usual meditation position and waited. Through the transparent wall, she could see unusual activity in the corridor. Vortex staff members were moving quickly, talking in worried voices. Something had changed. Around midday she heard shouting from somewhere in the facility. Not the controlled voices of professional interrogators, but the sounds of someone having a breakdown. The shouting continued for several minutes before stopping suddenly. Later she saw medical staff rushing through the corridors. They were carrying sedation equipment. That evening, a new Vortex appeared at her cell. This one wore different markings on his armor, higher ranked than the guards she knew. Human, he said in careful, practiced human language. I am Commander Zek. I supervise this facility. Hannah looked at him with the same calm expression she had maintained for a week. Good evening, Commander. Chief Interrogator Vel has been relieved of his duties, Zek said. He is receiving medical treatment for severe psychological distress. I am sorry to hear that, Hannah said. She meant it. She had not wanted to destroy Vel's mind, only to survive long enough to gather intelligence. His assistant Moore has requested transfer to a different facility, Zek continued. 2 of our guards have also been sedated for anxiety disorders. Hannah said nothing. She had noticed that Tech and Bricks had not been at their posts for 2 days. In 25 years of operation, this facility has never had a prisoner cause such effects on our staff, Zek said. We have broken warriors from 16 different species. None of them ever did what you have done. What have I done? Hannah asked. I have just sat here and answered questions. You have systematically analyzed and undermined the psychological stability of our most experienced personnel, Zek said. Without using violence. Without even raising your voice. You have turned our own interrogation techniques against us. This was true, though Hannah had not planned it that way. She had simply used her training to survive while gathering information. The psychological damage to her captors had been an unexpected side effect. We cannot continue these interrogations, Zek admitted. Our remaining staff refuse to work with you. They are afraid. Afraid of what? Hannah asked. Afraid of being seen through, Zek said. Afraid of having their minds dissected by someone who should be helpless but clearly is not. You have made them question everything they thought they knew about interrogation, about power, about themselves. A long silence filled the corridor. Finally, Zek spoke again. We are releasing you. Hannah felt a moment of surprise, but she did not let it show on her face. Why? Because keeping you here is damaging our facility more than releasing you could damage our war effort, Zek said honestly. You are like a virus that attacks the mind instead of the body. The longer you stay, the more of our people become infected with doubt and fear. When? Hannah asked. Now, Zek said. A transport ship is waiting to take you to neutral space. From there, you can find your way back to human territory. As Hannah walked through the facility toward the transport bay, she saw the damage her presence had caused. Medical staff were everywhere. She passed 3 Vortex being carried on stretchers, all sedated. Other staff members pressed themselves against the walls to avoid being near her. She had become something they could not understand or control, a prisoner who had turned captivity into a weapon. The transport ship was small and automated. No Vortak crew wanted to be in close quarters with her for the journey to neutral space. As the ship pulled away from the prison facility, Hannah looked back at the place where she had spent 7 days. 7 days that had changed everything. 3 weeks later, Hannah sat in Earth Fleet Intelligence Headquarters on Luna Base. The debriefing room was full of officers taking notes as she spoke. The Vortak military structure has significant weaknesses, she reported. Their interrogation methods depend on psychological dominance, but they have no defense against subjects who can resist that dominance. More importantly, they panic when their standard procedures fail. Admiral Chen, the intelligence director, leaned forward. What did you learn about their fleet positions? Everything, Hannah said. Supply routes, base locations, command structure, troop movements. They discussed classified information freely because they assumed I could not understand their language or use what I learned. She handed over a data pad containing hundreds of pages of intelligence gathered during her captivity. Information that would help human forces predict and counter Vortak attacks for months to come. But the most valuable intelligence is psychological, Hannah continued. The Vortaks cannot handle prolonged resistance. They expect quick victories and fast surrender. When faced with determined human endurance, their confidence collapses. Are you recommending a specific strategy? Admiral Chen asked. Yes, Hannah said. Any humans captured by Vortaks should be trained to endure interrogation using the methods I developed. Not to escape, but to survive long enough to gather intelligence and psychologically damage their captors. Turn capture into a weapon instead of a defeat. 6 months later, reports began reaching Earth Fleet Command. Vortak interrogation facilities throughout their empire were experiencing massive staff shortages. Word had spread among their military that humans could not be broken by traditional methods. Worse, that trying to break them often destroyed the interrogators instead. The Vortak Empire quietly ended their expansion into human space. They had encountered something they had never faced before, a species that grew stronger under pressure instead of weaker. Hannah Kim had won a war without firing a single shot.